I remember coming to Audie's room. I knocked on the door. It opened, and he stuck a pistol in my face and smiled.
John, your roles have always amazed me. I know in Appaloosa, another Western, Brando.
Brando, yeah.
How easy is he to work with?
Let me think a moment. Yeah, he was kind of quiet about it all. I guess he really didn't at that time care much about being in a film or something like that. I made scenes, or I thought of scenes and so on, and then I was telling him something. What do you think about this, or something like that? And he said, okay, we'll do it. And I worked with him for a good long while, and it turned out to be a big film, big film.
Again, you were wonderful in that. And was he at that time already using cue cards?
Yeah.
How did he hide them in those scenes?
I don't know. Maybe I told him things. Yeah, I did. I actually mentioned, why don't you do this instead? It was at that stage where it was not important, or whether it was important or not. Yeah.
Did Sidney Furie have much control over this?
Sidney, I think, Brando, I don't think, liked him very much. And so whenever he spoke about whatever was going on, Brando would kind of like just shrug his shoulders or something like that. Yeah, he wasn't really on it or with it at the time. I don't know how many films afterwards that he had made that were good films.
Well, he continued making films, but I think he would be hiding his script, his lines, up on the ceiling. You'd see him thinking,
right.
different things like that. Now, you see, we've got the Unforgiven poster up here behind us, too. Now, what was it like working on the John Huston film? Because I'm sure all of you have seen it, but John steals the movie. You were terrific in
thank you.
Unforgiven.
Yeah.
And Doug McClure told me that with John Huston, once John found out that Doug was a wrangler, a real horseback man, that he invited Doug to ride with him every day to the location from the truck. And so they would horseback ride and get into the mood and talk about things. And John Huston, what a charismatic man he was.
Yes, he actually, in doing this film, all of a sudden, I had learned to ride real well, and I would go out into the woods, into the, for the far places. And when I wasn't working, I had my horse and all that kind of stuff. And one time, actually, I almost died. I found myself alone and not knowing where I was. And there were bats going around on top of me. I finally got back to the studio.
But Unforgiven, it was Audrey Hepburn and Burt Lancaster. What was it like working with them?
Very interesting. Huston was directing it, and Burt Lancaster was going to be doing
he was the producer,
producer of it, yeah. So I got on a horse, and whatever I had to do, I did. Huston had the idea that he wanted three horses and then jump up on the horse. And I did that.
That was you on the film?
Yeah, and Huston said, okay, go on, son. And all of a sudden, these three horses stood, and I stood and went back off on my back. And finally got back and got back on the horse. And then Huston said, I'd like you to do those rockets, or those, not rockets, those all the way over there. And I said, that way? All that way? I said, oh, okay, I'll try that. I got on the horse and I started riding, And I thought, well, I'm going to go right where he said so. And we're going, and there was no saddle, and I went back off the horse. It took me, I don't know how long to get back to Houston. And he said, son, try it a little easier, a little easier. And I jumped down the horse again, and I went again. And I fell off the horse because I had nothing to hold on to. The third time, I came back, and they put on my clothes in a different way. They got a different guy to do it for the day, and that was the day's work.
Do you remember who the stuntmen were working with you on that?
Yes, but I can't remember the guy's name. It's been a long time ago.
Yep. Yeah. But that movie certainly holds up.
Yes, it was really, really very interesting. And then, of course, Audrey Hepburn. Scenes were being made by Huston, where all of a sudden I was riding her and myself down the hill. And why? We were going to go lie down on the floor and the fire and so on like that. Well, it was a suggestion that it really was going to be something of sex going on. Well, it didn't do that. Actually, she was riding down often. If somebody came out and said, no, stop, the light is bad. Okay, we did it 2 or 3 times and came back, and she went back and fell again off the horse. And that took her, I think, away about 2 weeks or 3 weeks from working in that place. Durango, that's what it was, yeah.
Well, I don't think she made another Western after that.
Yeah.
She broke her back.
She broke her back,
yeah, for a while. Coming to Audie's room, I knocked on the door. It opened, and he stuck a pistol in my face and smiled. We came down, both of us, into talking, and he was almost crying. I guess he was in love with 2 women or something like that at the time. And I just watched him, and he was literally crying at the moment.
Well, his first wife was Wanda Hendricks, who had been an up-and-coming starlet. They married young, and she was more career-driven than he was, but I know he was deeply in love with her. It was his first marriage and her first marriage, but her parents weren't really supportive of it.
I think you're very right about that.
Audie didn't drink either. And Jack Elam told a story once where Jack was at a bar with Audie.
Yeah.
And Jack had long hair for the role that he was doing. And he's at the bar, and Jack was drinking. And Audie had a Coca-Cola. And he was drinking, just quiet, unassuming. And these 2 big, burly cowboys started taunting the hippie Jack Elam, making fun of him. Hey, sissy boy. And they came up close, and and Audie turned to them, and he said, just leave us alone, please. And then turned back and started drinking his Coke. And they kept it up. And then Audie turned around, and this giant of a man, and Audie was about 5'7", I guess. He cold cocked him. The guy went down like that. Audie turned back around and started sipping his Coke. And the guy's buddy came up, we're so sorry. We really didn't mean to bother you at all, you know. And he was quiet, unassuming, but he had a temper, and his eyes were able to be so penetrating.
Yeah, I agree. What more I can say?
Well, you also did another film with him, though, where you played a city slicker, a banker, Posse from Hell.
Posse from Hell. That was I enjoyed it a lot. I was supposed to be someone who was kind of a dodo kind of character, and brought to around different places and things like that going on. And what else did he do? I don't remember.
Well, I know in that role, you had a suit on, you didn't know how to ride.
Right, I didn't know how to ride. and I lifted him, I think, at one time, or did he lift me? I think he was lifting me on my shoulders at the point of a scene in something. I was just walking until finally I think I fell down and dried down. Yeah, it was good.
In that movie, you have a couple of really nice, intimate scenes with Audie as your character is changing. You
Right.
changed from this mild-mannered banker and
That's what
picked
it
up
was, yes.
somebody's hat that had been killed, and suddenly you changed, your look changed, and Audie, you could see the relationship growing.
I enjoyed it a lot, and got to know Audie a lot.
What was he like off camera?
Very quiet to himself. We all had where we were. At that place, we all had different places at the edge of where the hell was it? That town. It was interesting in very ways. It was loaded with people, actors, all of them around the place, and we were out into the woods.
I want to ask about Bruce Lee.
I don't know where I met Bruce the first time, and we became kind of friendly. And the next thing I was in back in Hong Kong, working a film with Bruce Lee, and it was quite interesting. We worked together a lot, and there was lots of time to wait to do what we wanted to do. And what else can I tell you about?
Well, you were quite accomplished yourself in the martial arts, weren't you?
Yeah, I had long before.
Were you surprised at how successful it became?
I think so. It didn't take long afterwards because it became, I think, Universal, not Universal, it was Warner Brothers, yeah, that's right. And it was a big film, big, important film. Library of Congress actually considered it, what do they call it?
It's in the library.
In the Library of Congress about this film.
Well, it deserves to be there. When it first came out, it was an immediate phenomenon.
Big success, yeah.
And Bruce passed away shortly after that.
Yeah, why? You're right. I left Hong Kong and came back to home. And one time the phone rang, and I said, "Well, who is it?" Well, he says, "It's Bruce." I said, "Bruce, where are you?" He says, "I'm going to the doctor." I said, "The doctor? Why?" He says, "Well, there may not be a Bruce Lee anymore." And I put the phone down and found out that he was calling again. And the next time he came to call me, he said, "Everybody's great. They think it's great. I'm going to be great in the film," and so on and so forth. And he left back to Hong Kong, and he died shortly after. I don't really understand why. Yeah.
One other film. I don't want to keep you here too long, but Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
A phenomenon, another classic. That introduced Johnny Depp.
Right, absolutely.
But that was so scary, that movie.
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
And Wes Craven wrote and directed that, correct?
That's right, yes. And it was done, I think, about 7 times.
I think so, and then it spun off into a series, TV series too, with Freddy Krueger.
Right.
But the first one is still the classic. Was it one of those that you felt like, gee, this is going to be a special film?
I'm not sure if I did or didn't. Yeah. The beginning of the scene of something, I thought I was going to be something important. And then I decided, well, maybe it's not so good, so let's just go ahead and do it. And, I did in times of a 3rd and a 7th or 7 or 9 or 10 or like that. Finally, at the end of the films, yeah.
Well, wonderful. Let's have a big hand for John Saxon.
Thank you. Very, very happy. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, share, and tell your friends, because we and you, we're all going to keep the Western history alive.